Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jennifer DeBrolden, the Chief of Public Transportation at DRPT, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us this afternoon on short notice just after the holiday. The purpose of today's webinar is to give you an update on our fiscal year 2023 application process and to share with you some challenges that we're having and some change in procedures. Miriam, can you go to the next slide, please? All right, so we have a huge crowd on today's webinar. So all participants are going to stay in listen-only mode for the presentation. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We've got a couple of different ways for you to ask questions. Feel free to submit questions via the chat or question function that you see at the bottom of your screen at any point in time during the presentation. You can also utilize the raised hand function that's located on the right side of the GoToWebinar window. For those that use the raised hand function, we are going to ask that we're going to hold all of those questions until the end when Miriam will be able to unmute folks to ask verbal questions. I will say that today's webinar is focused on change in procedures. We are not looking to answer grantee or project-specific questions in today's webinar. I would ask that you direct any questions that are specific to your agency or to specific projects that you're applying for to your DRPT program manager. Recognizing that there are some folks that aren't able to be with us today, we are going to post today's webinar recording on DRPT's YouTube channel. That's available at the link on the screen. It's also easily available if you Google DRPT YouTube. Next slide. So I'm going to start off and just refresh everybody's memory about our 6-year plan development process. We open our grant cycle December 1st each year. Our state and federal transit grant applications are due to us by February 1st. For our MPO partners, our Section 5303 applications are due May 1st. That all rolls into having a draft 6-year program ready in April and a final ready for public meetings and then approval by the CTB in June. So it is a really tight time frame. We've had a lot of changes in our program over the past several years in terms of incorporating a lot more prioritization and performance-based methodology to how we allocate funding. We've incorporated all of that additional work without changing the application due date or time frame for our partners, and we've felt like that was really important, but it does put a lot of work on the DRPT staff in a very short period of time. Next slide. So what we are dealing with, and you should have received a notification from us back in December that we were starting to see some unanticipated outages with OLGA. We did see suspicious activity that was detected in our systems. We've worked extensively with the Virginia Information Technology Agency to take our websites out of the public domain so that they can thoroughly investigate, perform maintenance, and contain any suspicious activity before restoring the sites available for your use as soon as possible. At this point, we have not been able to get those sites restored in a way that we feel comfortable proceeding with our application cycle as we normally do through OLGA. The team does remain in the early stages of the investigation, but the good news is at this point has not found any evidence of any data loss or any compromise of our systems and our information at this time. So given the continuation of efforts to restore the system, we have been faced with a very difficult decision regarding the availability of OLGA to support the fiscal year 23 application process. And as that remains in question, and we're sitting here on January 4th with a deadline of February 1st, we have determined that we need to move to a manual application process for fiscal year 23. As I indicated before, we do have a very tight time frame. DRPT is unable to extend the application deadline past February 1st. So we do understand that this puts a change in plans in terms of what you guys are working on for applications, and it also puts quite a change in plans in terms of what we are preparing to do to evaluate those applications and make funding recommendations over the next few months. Next slide, please. So for this manual application process, one of the things that I guess makes things a little bit easier is that we have over the past few years incorporated a lot of fillable PDF and Excel spreadsheets as part of our application process. So as we are moving out of OLGA into a fully manual application process just for this one fiscal year, we are going to use those fillable PDF spreadsheets and other file types that you generally submit to us as the basis of your applications for funding. We're going to accept those via email. I'm going to go through some really specific email instructions momentarily, but suffice it to say, things are going to be a lot different in terms of how you communicate with us and how you submit an application, but the applications themselves are not going to be much different because we are using tools that we already have available to us. Additionally, you're hearing me today speaking on behalf of all of our transit funding programs, and all of our programs are going to generally follow the same submission procedures, again, trying to make that process as seamless and as smooth as possible for you. We are acutely aware that this is an incredible disruption of a process that we're all very accustomed with. We have done everything that we can to make this as similar and as smooth as possible and easy for you so that we don't impede your ability to apply for funding. Next slide. So in terms of our application documents, we have put all of our manual forms and collected them in one place so that you'll have easy access to the information that you need to apply for each of our DRPT transit funding programs, including our merit capital and operating assistance, our commuter assistance programs, our Section 5310 funding for human service agencies, all three of our special programs, the transit ridership incentive program, and also for the submission of our 5-year capital budgets. We do have, in addition to our regular application guidance, we have a very simple, basically a page and a half of simple instructions available on how to communicate with us and how to submit those applications through this manual process. The technology issues that we're facing are also impacting our DRPT webpage. So all of our forms are available on DRPT's brand new open data portal. This is something we haven't had the opportunity to roll out more formally yet, but it is available for you to take a look at our new very visual and online fiscal year 22 6-year improvement program in this new open data portal. That web page is data.drpt.virginia.gov, and in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a tile that says FY23 application information, and all of the forms, guidance documents, and information that you need in order to apply for funding are available on that web page. Next slide, please. So in terms of our submission process, as I indicated already, we're going to utilize an email methodology to accept your applications. In doing that, we need to ask your assistance in helping us keep a lot of documents and data that are being submitted to us at the same time organized and help us manage a lot of information. So as you are completing your applications for the program for which you are seeking funding, we ask that you save a copy with your agency's name and the title. So if DRPT were applying for funding, we would say DRPT FY23 and then whatever application. That way we can have everybody in a very similar naming convention. And then to use that same naming convention for all of your required application attachments. Additionally, because we don't have access to OLGA and we don't have that, I'll say gateway where only authorized people are able to submit applications, because we have certain users for each agency that are authorized by their agencies to submit applications in OLGA, we are going to have to include a new certification as part of this application cycle just this year because of the manual process. So please make sure that you complete that certification for your application. That serves as confirmation that you are authorized to apply for funding and also serves as your commitment of any required matching funds. So that certification serves as the same thing as hitting the submit button in OLGA in our normal process. Next slide. So in order to submit applications, you're going to draft and send an email to the appropriate email address. I'm going to talk about email addresses in a moment on the next slide. But that is email is very important. Please don't send it to your DRPT program manager. Please use the appropriate email addresses that we've set up specific for applications. And when you do submit them, please include in your email subject line what you're applying for along with your agency name. So again, DRPT is applying for funding. It would be DRPT FY2023 application for whatever funding program that I was seeking. Again, that helps us keep things very organized and keep all of the information and applications that were received in good order. We'd ask that you'd send one email per type of funding application. So if you're applying for capital, you would separate that or send that separately from operating or intern or technical assistance. I understand that, you know, for some of the larger transit agencies, the capital applications can be quite extensive. If there is a need to split into multiple emails for large applications in order to get them through either your email system or ours, that is okay. If you have large attachments that don't like the email system on either end, please let your DRPT program manager know, and we can provide you with an FTP site to upload those large attachments as well. Next slide, please. So in terms of submission, we have established 3 new generic mailboxes for the sole purpose of communicating with you about applications and for submitting applications. We have established a mailbox for merit at drpt.virginia.gov. That mailbox should be used for all public transit applications. That includes anything coming from the public transit side, capital operating, or any of our special programs related to the transit side of the house. Those should be submitted using that protocol to merit at drpt.virginia.gov. For the commuter assistance agencies and those seeking funding and through the commuter assistance program and also the Transit Recovery Marketing Initiative, those applications should be emailed to cap@drpt.virginia.gov. For Section 5310 for our human service providers, I know there are a number of you online today. I know you're used to working with Brittany directly. I would ask that for the submission of applications, please send those to Chisholm, CHSM@drpt.virginia.gov. We are also accepting applications under our Transit Ridership Incentive Program. We have an email box that had previously been established for that program. So those applications should be emailed to trip@drpt.virginia.gov. These email boxes should only be used to submit applications. We're not going to be checking them for questions. We're only going to be utilizing them to manage the submission of applications and to catalog and track those applications as they are submitted. So if you have questions about any of your projects, anything related to your individual agency, related to eligibility, related to this manual application process, please direct those to your DRPT program manager directly. Next slide. Okay, so in terms of how we're going to interact with you once you submit an application, there is going to be kind of an automated response that you're going to get from these standard email boxes that basically just says that the email box is not monitored for questions and directing you to your program manager. So you'll see that when you submit, so you will get some initial confirmation that an email has gone through. DRPT staff is then going to follow up with you directly to give you an email to indicate that your application was received along with the supporting documentation. This email is your confirmation that your application has been submitted. It's been submitted by the deadline. It does not confirm that everything is complete, just like we normally do every year with our process through OLGA. We do start a formal grant review process after February 1st, where your individual program manager is going to look through your application, check the information that's been provided, and will follow up with you if there's any additional information that is required to complete review of your application or to help with prioritization. So that step, which we always have, we'll continue to do that, but we do want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable that their application has been received. And so we want to make sure that we provide that acknowledgement back to you that we have received your application. Next slide. So after the application period closes on February 1st, we are then going to, in addition to these individual emails, we are going to compile a list of applications received from each agency. And we're going to follow up with the appropriate point of contact. That may be, whoever your master user is in OLGA, executive director or CEO of that organization, to give them a listing of all of the applications that we've received. Again, we want to make absolutely certain that nothing has fallen through the cracks. So we're going to send you that list of applications. We're going to ask for a reply to confirm that the list is accurate and complete. And at that point, that is your final opportunity to confirm to us that we have received your submission. At that point, if the list that you receive is not complete, please let us know with any missing applications or information that may not be on that list. Also, I think everybody knows we rely heavily on OLGA as our grants management and interactive tool between DRPT and our funding recipients. So ultimately, once OLGA is back online, we will need to have all of the fiscal year 23 applications put into our system. We want to let everybody know that we're going to be taking care of that on our end to make sure that that information is all recorded in our source system of record. And then ultimately, we will continue to manage any grants awarded based on those applications using our online system. Next slide, please. Just a couple of other program updates and things that we want to pass along since we have the opportunity. We have received some updated revenue forecast. So previously we had communicated that we were not in a position to consider any TRIP zero fare applications as part of the fiscal year 23 application cycle. Based on these updated revenue forecasts, we do anticipate having some funding available for zero fare pilots. So we will accept applications for funding under that program for fiscal year 23. So that is a change in what we are accepting applications for. So that is good news. We also want to pass along that we're seeing a lot of fluctuations in the market, specifically with regard to vehicle pricing. And also materials for construction projects. So really want to strongly encourage agencies to look at the current market conditions in completing your applications to make sure that you are requesting the right amount of funding to be able to proceed with the projects that you have planned. Also, another bit of good news is we did take some additional fiscal year 22 allocations to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. In December, those additional awards were for transit capital. And those, so we would just remind you to consider those allocations in the development of your capital applications on the transit side, and also in the update of your 5-year capital budget, because those were projects that previously we did not anticipate funding in the fiscal 22 cycle. Next slide, Miriam. So there's some other OLGA impacts that we want to touch on today as well. We are very grateful that we have OLGA as our online system, but an outage with OLGA definitely impacts other interactions that we have with you, our agency partners. So we have been working to establish manual procedures for other key functions as well, including invoice processing, project extensions, and issuing project contracts. I'm going to talk about invoice processing more on the next slide. For project extensions, I would simply say if you are in need of a project extension, please reach out to your DRPT program manager. They can walk you through the process of making that request in the manual fashion. If you are in need of a project contract, if you had a contract in OLGA that was not executed, that you now need to execute, or if you are in need of a contract for one of the projects that was awarded based on board action in December, please reach out to your DRPT program manager and let them know. We'll be happy to put together a manual contract and be able to execute that for you. With regard to performance data, at this point, we do anticipate that this outage is not going to be prolonged. So we're just going to ask agencies to hold their performance data for the time being. Once OLGA comes back online, we'll let you know. And that will be the opportunity for you to go back and catch up with your performance data reporting once OLGA does come back online. So not necessarily a manual procedure for that. We can hold off on that until we get OLGA back up and running. We do have a couple of other impacts that we've identified. We do have some, potentially have some new applicants that did not have an OLGA login that was established before the outage. We pretty familiar with who those folks are, but if you are not currently an applicant, did not have an OLGA login, but you are planning to apply for funding in FY23, please contact the appropriate DRPT program manager for assistance. They'll walk you through that process. And again, I can't emphasize it enough. If you have a need for assistance with any of these procedures or any impacts related to OLGA being down, please feel free at any point in time to reach out to your DRPT program manager for help. Next slide. So I want to go back and talk about invoice processing or reimbursement requests. We also have a mailbox that's established for reimbursement requests. That's accounts payable, all one word strung together at drpt.virginia.gov. So what you can do is you can email your reimbursement request to that email address and submit the same documentation that you would attach and upload through OLGA. In addition, the email should include the following, and these are data fields that you fill out when you make a reimbursement request in OLGA. Should include the grantee name, the grantee staff name, and again, this gets back to not having that login gateway with OLGA. We need to know who is making the request for reimbursement. We need to make sure that that person is appropriate and authorized to make that request. So we do need that grantee staff name. The project and tasks that are associated with the reimbursement request. And then finally, and this is really important from our finance team, they need to know the amount that is expended, the total amount. So this is the same number that you would enter into OLGA of the total amount that's been expended in the period. It is not the reimbursable amount. They have to have that total amount expended in order to just calculate the reimbursable amount based on match rates and eligible shares. So please make sure that you provide that. Again, these are all the same data fields that you fill out in OLGA when you seek reimbursement. Next slide. I just want to refresh everybody's memory again. Start out with calendar. I'm going to wrap up with calendar as well. There are a couple of other steps in our grant cycle that I want to make sure that folks are aware of and that are on their radar. We did open our grant cycle December 1st. Fiscal year 21 passenger miles traveled data was due to DRPT from those agencies that are required to report that. That was due December 15th. We have a couple of due dates coming up in January. January 18th, TDP and TSP update letters are due to DRPT. There's a procedure that's set for those, and it's done outside of OLGA. On January 15th, all of the Trans Am asset data updates are due to DRPT. That's in particular, that's odometer readings for calculating SGR scores and merit. I do want to emphasize that Trans Am is unaffected by our IT outage, so we will be following our normal procedure on collection of asset data using TransAm, and we'll be pulling down that data to score projects based on what's in our system on January 15th. Again, our applications are due February 1st, and then we do have the process through the rest of the spring to present the draft 6-year program to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and leading up to an approval in June. Next slide, please. All right, so application guidance. Just want to emphasize again that our guidance and assistance are always available. Our Blue Book is really the key document that tells you how to apply and what you need to apply. That Blue Book is also posted out on our open data portal, in addition to all of the manual application documents. Talk to your DRPT program manager. They are your best resource for assistance with your application, for assistance with any of the manual processes that we're undertaking while OLGA is down. And in addition, there at the bottom of the screen is the contact information for our transit leadership team, and all 5 of us are available to provide any support as needed to you as well. So we want to make sure that everybody knows we're here to help through this challenging time that 2022 has thrown at us. I also don't want to miss the reminder that Section 5310 application guidance, that is separate from the DRPT Blue Book, and that guidance and grant management procedure is also out there on our open data portal. Next slide. All right, so I have talked to the point where my voice doesn't want me to talk anymore. So I am going to, just as a reminder, everybody's in listen only mode. I see a little chat light flashing. Miriam is going to facilitate us through the questions that she has in the chat, and then we will also take hands using the raise hand function. I will do the best I can to answer as many questions as I can, and then also if there are questions that are specific to your agency or to your application, I will be redirecting those to your program manager. And so Miriam, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks. We have several questions here. A few people have asked, will these slides be available in PDF form, or will you be emailing them the slides after the presentation?
We can do all of the above. We will post the slides and the recording on the open data portal, but we can also send an email out with a PDF of the slides and a link to the recording on, and this slide says our Merit webpage, but it'll be on our YouTube page. So we can definitely send that out to make sure you have that information at your fingertips. Great question.
Okay. Person asked, we thought TransAm was not available with OLGA down. This is not the case, question mark.
That is not the case. OLGA is housed on a DRPT server, something in-house for us. TransAm is hosted by a consultant. So TransAm is unaffected. So you are able to update your asset data in TransAm as normal, and we will be pulling the asset data out of TransAm as we typically do to score applications. So no impacts to TransAm whatsoever.
Okay. And looking at the 5310 funding application, is there a word limit for the narrative section?
I do not think we have Brittany on here and able to speak, but I would ask that you would, if you could direct that question or follow up with Brittany Bowl, she can help you with that.
Oh, and Brittany says there are no word limits. Thank you for that answer, Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany.
What guidance documents apply to demonstration projects?
So the Blue Book has guidance on the demonstration program and what is needed to, what projects are eligible and what the process is to apply for demonstration funding.
Okay. We had a reimbursement into Gabe at OLGA from Arlington when this started. So we submit this with a new submission for the reimbursement process.
Yes, if you have, so there are some, the way our systems works, there are some applications that, or reimbursement requests that we were able to get out from our side after OLGA went down. So I would ask that if it's specific to Arlington, reach out to Clinton Edwards and he can tell you whether or not he has what he needs to process that reimbursement request and give you direction if you need to resubmit it through email. But that should be fairly easy for us to determine specific to Arlington or any other grantee. So if you have questions about a reimbursement request that was submitted into OLGA, please follow up with your program manager and they can let you know the status.
Okay, this person is asking for clarification on where today's presentation will be available.
So today's presentation, once we wrap it up and Miriam has a chance to download it and get it posted, it will be available on DRPT's YouTube page. So if you Google DRPT YouTube, we pop up at the top of the list. So that is where it will be available. We'll also post it on that open data portal in our fiscal 23 application information section. So 2 opportunities, and we can send you the link as well.
We have about 8 more questions. With OLGA down, where do we submit second quarter reimbursement requests?
So second quarter reimbursement requests can be submitted through, there was a couple slides back, but we have an email address, accountspayable@drpt.virginia.gov. And you would submit the same documentation that you submit in OLGA along with the cover information that was just summarized on the slide a couple of slides ago in order to submit that request for reimbursement. That also, we're going to send out in an email blast specific to invoice processing here in the next day or so.
Okay, we've gotten several questions since your last response. Thank you, Mindy. Just wanted to thank you all for your transparency, support, and helpfulness during this time. We all appreciate it. Not so much a question as a comment, but we were recently told by DRPT Accounts Payable Office that we were supposed to include the amount reimbursable, not total amount, which is correct.
The total amount is what needs to be included. And if you want to cover all your bases, you could put the total amount and also the amount you're seeking for reimbursement. So when in doubt, include a little bit of extra information.
The letter that is required to continue to follow DRPT TAM, not sure what that is, by January 18th, 2022, is there a format letter or just send in something on Pat's logo?
So there was guidance that was sent out recently about that. If you will reach out to your DRPT program manager, they can get that information to you to address that specific question. But there is not much in terms of a standard format, but we can give you some additional guidance specific to your agency.
Please expand upon why the deadline for the grantees is not moving. Seems very unfair that our time is cut by more than half, but no other dates move.
So that's a fair question, and it's one that we have struggled with. We did not anticipate that this outage would last as long. We've been down for a couple of weeks, and prior to that, there were only a handful of applications that were even started in the system. We can see those. Typically, most of the activity that we see in terms of developing an application in OLGA happens after the 1st of January, between the 1st of January and the 1st of February. So that's why we made the decision and we're communicating with you today about the change. This is when we see the most activity in OLGA and in getting those applications submitted. We did look at our calendar and our schedule to see if there was any way that we could cut out time on our side to provide some additional time to the applicants. And unfortunately, with all of the data and analytics that go into the evaluation of applications under the merit methodology, which is required by code, there is no time for us to cut out. And some of you may recall that when that whole merit discussion went through TISDAC back in 2017 through early 2019, there was a lot of discussion at that time about shifting the application dates up by 2 to 3 weeks to give us more time and to basically give us a little buffer in case we had a problem. And at that point, what the feedback that we got from the agencies was giving us more time, giving us a buffer, just wasn't palatable, that February 1st was the earliest that applications could be submitted. So we stuck with that to, quite frankly, at times our own detriment in terms of getting everything that is now required under the merit methodology completed. So worst case scenario, we've lost OLGA during our application cycle, and I just don't have any wiggle room to work with. So I beg your patience. I give you my sincerest apologies. If there was any other way for us to do this, I would do this differently, but we are where we are, and we cannot move that date out past February 1st.
Well, we still have access to the grant application we submitted the previous year.
Great question. So with OLGA down, you are not able to access the application you submitted in a previous year. However, we have the capability through tools that are available just to DRPT staff to be able to go and download that information for you on our side of the system. So if you want to have a copy of your application from last year or from a previous year, or any of the attachments associated with it, please reach out to your DRPT program manager. They will be happy to download that information and email it to you. The same with anybody that had started an application in OLGA before the system went down. Those applications, if there's anything out there that you would like to have downloaded and emailed to you, we can download that information and send it to you as well.
Well, computer assist programs submit quarterly reports through cap@drpt.virginia.gov.
So
would you like me to repeat it? It's commuter assistance programs submit quarterly reports through the CAP email.
I'm going to ask Chris, who is online. Chris, can you address that question?
Miriam, can you repeat that?
Sure. Well, commuter assistance programs submit quarterly reports through cap@drpt.virginia.gov.
No, so that email is only for the application and also any attachments that you would want to, any other information that goes with that application. But for reporting, no, that just general reports. No, do not use that email address. Send it directly to your DRPT program manager.
Well, we still have access to the grant application we submitted the what is the maximum email size that can be received by these email addresses?
Sorry, having trouble unmuting myself. So the maximum email size, I believe on our side is 25 meg. We have Google Mail, so we have a mailbox that is the largest possible mailbox in Google. So we should be able to receive attachments up to 25 megabytes. If you have something larger than that, or find that there is an attachment that is not able to go through due to a limitation either on your end or our end, please work with your program manager, and they can get you a FTP or give you access to an FTP site to place those large attachments in so that we can grab them.
How should we enter new assets into Transam?
So for Transam works the way Transam has always worked. Please reach out to your DRPT program manager and they can provide you that one-on-one assistance with adding those assets to Transam.
Can you repeat the DRPT data portal website?
Absolutely. It is https:// and this is really what you want to hear. It's data.drpt.virginia.gov. And we'll make sure that that goes out to everybody in the follow-up email as well with a link.
If I'm an existing OLGA user, FY2023 grantee, do I need a new project contract and proof of signing authority, etc.?
So if you're an existing user in OLGA, you will need a new contract when additional funding is awarded, but you should have already received your contract for fiscal 22. So unless I'm not following the question, you should have what you need. I'd ask that you follow up with Brittany Vole and she can give you that one-on-one assistance to better answer your question than I can.
This is a Transam question. Since January 15th is Saturday and January 17th is a holiday, we have until January 18th to update our fleet records.
So we will not be pulling your fleet records down on January 15th. So if nobody will access them until January 18th.
Okay, I cannot locate the 5310 application guidance or data portal. Could you give us the website again?
Miriam, am I able to send it to everybody in the chat?
Yes.
I can't see. All I can see is organizers and panelists. Can you drop it? Can you go back to the slide with the email address, with the website address on it?
Yes, let me find it here.
Go back one more, I think.
Okay.
There it is. All right, so there's the web page at the bottom. So it's https://data.drpt.virginia.gov. And Miriam, if we can just leave it there so folks can see it.
Sure. And that is all of our questions through the question panel that we can take. If anybody would like to use the raise hand function, you can ask questions now. Okay.
All right. Well, I will share my wrap-up comments, and then if we get any hands, we can go to folks. I do again just want to express, my apologies for having to put us all through this. It definitely is not where I thought we were going to be, but appreciate everyone's patience as we work through a challenging process. I think the last few years have taught us all the importance of adapting and overcoming the challenges that fall before us. This was not on my list for 2022. Also want to give a big shout out. A significant number of DRPT staff worked over the holidays to put all of this manual process together so that we would have everything ready to roll out today. So I want to thank the folks on my team for really doing a yeoman's job when most of them were planning to be off to make sure that we had everything ready to go and roll out today, hoping that we wouldn't have to do this. So big thanks to them. Our team is available, all of us, myself included, to help and to be supportive and do what we can to support you. We are still kind of working through learning what our limitations are and what we have access to and what we don't have access to. Many thanks to Brittany Vole, who is live working on what we can pull down out of Symphony, which is our side of OLGA. At the moment, it does look like we are having some difficulty pulling down some of the older applications. We're hoping to get that back online shortly. So if you do want your program manager to send you a previous year's application, please understand we may not be able to pull that down in the next few days, but we're hoping to get that functionality back online soon. And with that, Miriam, last call. Do you see any hands raised?
Yes, Queenie, please unmute yourself and you'll be able to ask your question.
Hi, Jennifer. I am trying to go on to that data, DRPT, Virginia.gov, and it says that the site can't be reached.
All right, so Queenie, I'd ask that you work with Patrice. And Patrice is the owner of data.drpt.virginia.gov, and she can help you with that. And she happens to be your fabulous grant manager, so she'll take care of you.
That is all of our questions.
All right, well, with that, we are going to wrap it up, and appreciate, again, everybody taking the time to join us today. Appreciate everybody's patience.